Hey guys, welcome back to Lab Cyber. I'm your host Alex. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe wherever you are. Today marks the very first episode of a new series of videos I am thinking of publishing on a regular basis here on Lab Cyber called Cyber News, where I'll basically cover 2 or 3, maybe even 4 very interesting stories from the world of cybersecurity, and I'll share my thoughts and opinion on those stories. So let me know what you think about this format of videos. If you enjoy them, or maybe you'd prefer if I focused on something else, let me know in the comments section below. Now today I've got 2 very interesting stories to talk about, and the first one here is going to be from the Malwarebytes Labs blog, and it says how Bitcoin payments unmasked a man who hired a dark web contract killer. I chose this story because it was very educational, and I actually learned quite a few things from this story. So what exactly happened? Well, it turns out that an Italian man tried to hire an assassin on the dark web to assassinate his ex-girlfriend. Now, if you don't know what the dark web is, it's basically I like to call it the evil side of the internet, where you can basically get access to anything. You can get access to fraudsters, black hat hackers, cyber criminals. As you can see, you can even hire hitmen to take out people you don't like, and it's basically the part of the web that is notorious for all kinds of unlawful things. So apparently this guy tried to hire an assassin on the dark web to take out his ex-girlfriend, and he made payment with Bitcoin. So it says right here what happened. According to a news article published by European Policing Entity, they assisted Italian communications crime law enforcement in arresting a local citizen suspected of paying about $12,000 worth of Bitcoin at the time of writing to a dark web hitman to his ex-girlfriend. So the agencies involved were the Polizia Postale, that's kind of like the Federal Department of Italian Police, and then Europol, which is the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation. So the investigation. After being asked for assistance, Europol reportedly carried out an urgent analysis of the Bitcoin transactions to trace the origin. Now, this is where things get very, very interesting. Unmasking Bitcoin transactions. Now, I don't know about you, but I always used to think that, hey, one of the reasons why people really loved Bitcoin transactions was because Bitcoin cannot be traced to whoever is sending or receiving the Bitcoin. That's why cyber criminals always loved getting payments via Bitcoin, right? But apparently, that's not necessarily always true. So it says right here that Europol managed to track down the local cryptocurrency service provider that facilitated the suspect's Bitcoin purchases to uncover more information about him. So let's just imagine that he used, let's say, Coinbase as an example, right? So they were able to actually track down Coinbase, and they were able to get Coinbase to assist them in trying to unmask the identity of the person. Again, I'm not saying it was Coinbase where the suspect purchased his Bitcoin. I'm not saying it was Coinbase, but it was a platform just like Coinbase, and they were able to track down his identity from there. So it says right here that it was able to do this because Bitcoin transactions are all recorded in a public ledger called a blockchain, which is true. So whenever you make Bitcoin payments or you receive Bitcoin payments, basically any kind of Bitcoin transaction is recorded in something known as the blockchain. You can think of it as each transaction being a block, and all these blocks, all these transactions are recorded in the blockchain. It's of course a bit more complex than that. That's a very simple way of me describing what the blockchain is, but try to think of it that way. So the Bitcoin blockchain records every transaction ever made using the currency in its blockchain, making it a perfect source for big data investigations. Now, listen to this. With the proper tools, and I'd love to know what tools these are, investigators can follow and backtrack payments. Although Bitcoin transactions don't record the names of the people involved, they do record the wallet addresses that sent or received money. If the police can link a wallet address to a real individual, they can then trace that individual's credits and debits. So it all comes down to the wallet. Whenever you open an account on any cryptocurrency trading platform, like Coinbase as an example, right? You're going to have a wallet that you use for receiving or sending payments. If the police can track the wallet to you, then basically they know who you are. And that's exactly what happened here. How they were actually able to do so, let's read on. It says right here that exchanges where non-digital money and cryptocurrencies get exchanged are an established weak spot in the chain for criminals, since users often have to hand over personally identifiable information before they can use one. If the police can trace Bitcoin payments back to a Bitcoin purchase at a legitimate exchange, they can then subpoena the exchange for the Bitcoin owner's personal details. So that's exactly what happened there. Now, how they were able to trace the wallet, the digital wallet, to this Italian suspect, we don't really know. But apparently, he must have made some sort of mistake on the dark web. Maybe he used his email address, or maybe he used his username from another platform on the dark web. That's how the police were able to track him down to his digital wallet. So it says right here that the story is a useful reminder that the dark web is not as hidden or unconnected as many people think. Connections to the regular web and the real world can reveal the things its users are trying to keep hidden. So in this case, the arrested man seems to have been unmasked by his connections to currency transactions on the regular web, but there are numerous other pathways from one to the other. So for example, real people can accidentally unmask themselves through any number of mistakes, from EXIF data and photos to using the Reddit account username on a dark web market. So basically, he messed up. He made a mistake on the dark web, either again by using some sort of information that the police were able to use to identify him in the real world. So that's pretty much it. The investigation tools, there are existing tools and new ones under development that enable investigators to find the type of information that can connect dark web operators to real world identity. And as for the hitman, it is unknown whether the hitman that offered to carry out the crime has been identified and will be prosecuted. Now, this is all, it's a happy ending. They were able to, stop the hitman from carrying out the transaction, basically. But one thing I found very interesting is that they don't reveal what triggered the investigation in the first place. Like before the police got involved, there must have been something that alerted them that, hey, somebody is trying to take out this girl, this person. Like, what triggered the investigation? I went to the actual website, Europol's website, and their report on this incident, it says nothing. They didn't reveal what triggered them, what alerted them to the possibility that somebody had made payments via Bitcoin to take out the ex-girlfriend. Nothing about that. So I'd be very interested to learn what triggered the investigation in the first place. Maybe they were monitoring the transactions on the dark web involving Bitcoin, and I don't know. I have never used the dark web before. I have never hired an assassin before on the dark web, so I would not be able to give you some more insight as to how the whole thing works. Maybe, I don't know. I've never used the dark web before, so I couldn't possibly tell you. But this was a very, very interesting story about how your Bitcoin payments can actually be tracked back to you if you make certain kinds of mistakes. Before I move on to the second story of the day, I just wanted to give you an update about my next two videos here on the channel. The first one will involve a review of my new security key, which is the UB key. Hopefully you can see that, but it's my new security key that I just got a few days ago. So I will be giving a review about the key, how I use it, what it does, and why you may want to get yourself one. And I will also talk about, in the second video, Google's new privacy first feature for web advertising, and it's basically called the federated learning of cohorts, and it is a very, very interesting program, and you don't want to miss those 2 videos. So please hit the bell so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video here on the channel. Let's now talk about today's second and final story, and here it's from the website Blipping Computer, and it says a ransomware gang made $260,000 in 5 days using the 7-zip utility. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is just another ransomware gang making money and so on. There's actually a reason why I picked this story, and that's because this gang were kind of very unique in the way they executed their plan. So it says right here that a ransomware gang made $260,000 in just 5 days by simply remotely encrypting files on QNAP devices using the 7-zip archive program. Okay, what exactly are these? Now, if you don't know what a NAS is, it's what we call a network attached storage device. Here's an example of what they look like, right? They're basically storage devices that you can connect to a network, and then you can access your files stored on that device either in your home or in your office or anywhere around the world. Basically, just think of it as your local hard drive but on a network, and you can access the files on that drive anywhere. That's basically what network attached storage devices are. Now, QNAP is actually a company that makes products like that. This is the website, and if you go to products, you will see it right here: storage, enterprise NAS, SMB NAS, home NAS, and so on. So they make network attached storage devices. Unfortunately, there was a vulnerability in the software that allowed hackers, black hat hackers in this case, to actually connect to those devices and then encrypt all the files there. And these hackers used 7-zip. If you've never heard of 7-zip, it's basically an open source tool for encrypting and decrypting or even compressing files. It's open source. You don't have to pay for it. And that's very, very interesting because usually ransomware gangs, whenever they encrypt people's files, they use their own personalized software. Like they spend hours, days, maybe even weeks coming up with this very advanced, sophisticated kind of software which they will use to encrypt the files of the victims. These guys simply used 7-zip. They didn't even bother like coming up with their own, special kind of software. They just took 7-zip, which is open source, and said, hey, we're going to use 7-zip to actually encrypt the files of our victims. And that's what they did. Now, what makes this even more interesting is the fact that the demands were also what I would say very reasonable. And it says right here, enterprise targeting ransomware usually demands ransom payments ranging from $100,000 to $50 million. We'll talk about that very, very soon, to decrypt all of the victims' devices and not leak their stolen data. However, these guys, called Qlocker, by the way, they're called the Qlocker gang. They chose a different target: consumers and small to medium business owners utilizing QNAP NAS devices for network storage. So they didn't target like big businesses or big companies. They targeted like regular individuals like you and I, and then small businesses. Those were their targets. And then it seems that the threat actors knew the targets well, as they priced their ransom demands at only 0.01 Bitcoin, or as of today's prices, approximately $500. So this is bizarre. Like, ransomware gangs, when they encrypt your files, they will demand hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars if possible. These guys were just charging $500. And here's actually a snapshot of the ransom. And it says you have to send 0.01 Bitcoin to the below address and specify the transaction ID. Once we receive your payment, we will then get a password to decrypt your data. So again, this was a very interesting gang because not only did they use an open source tool to encrypt the files of the victims, they also charged just $500 as ransomware. Now, again, I don't condone what they did. Obviously, these are criminals and they should be punished. But you have to at least say that they were very, very smart and very unique in the way they approached their business. So that's basically what happened in here. QNAP have of course tried to release updates to patch up the vulnerability, and yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And speaking of ransomware, I made a video a few weeks ago about Acer, the fifth largest computer manufacturers in the world, being hit by a $50 million ransomware attack. What is interesting here is that there has been no updates, at least none that I can find. I actually spent plenty of time searching, trying to find out if there was an update, whether or not Acer eventually paid the ransom, they just said, you know what, forget it, we're not gonna pay you guys. There's been no update whatsoever, but the truth is, I'm not surprised because companies usually don't even reveal that they've been hacked. In this case, Acer refused to confirm that they had been hit by the ransomware attack. So you can be sure that if whatever happened, if they made the payment or they didn't make the payment, they were never going to reveal what the update was. And that's pretty much it. My guess is they probably must have reached some sort of compromise with the ransomware gang, maybe pay them maybe $1 million or something. I don't know, but I suspect that's what must have happened. So that's a roundup of today's 2 stories, just 2 stories for today. Again, this is kind of like a trial one. I just want to see how you guys respond to these kinds of videos. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, please do let me know in the comment section below. I'll start to make more of these, but if you prefer I focus more on tutorials or the documentary styled kind of cybersecurity videos, do let me know as well. Let me know what your thoughts and comments are below in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do comment, leave a comment. It would really help with the algorithm. And of course, if there are people whom you feel might benefit from this video, please do share it with them. My name is Alex, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.